Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today is day 28 of Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches and Scraptember. The sketch for today is posted in the upper left-hand corner, and the Scraptember prompt is single photo. So I already have the Scraptember prompt covered for today. As far as the sketch goes, I rotated the sketch. So instead of having the floral cluster to the right-hand side of the photo, it's going to be on top of the photo. I'm using a Prima collection for this layout. It's an older collection, and I'm afraid that I'm going to mispronounce it. So I'm just going to put the name of it up on the screen, and that way I won't embarrass myself by saying it wrong. I love this collection. I love the blues in it, and I love pretty much everything about it. It has a beachy feel and a summery feel, so I thought this would be the perfect collection to use for this layout. I've used the collection before, so I had a few sheets of paper left over. Those waves that you see on the bottom, those were already in with the collection. So I decided that I was going to layer those up and create an area that looked like it was water on the bottom of the layout. I'm just attaching all the layers down. I thought that the 12 by 12 inch paper that I'm using in the background is just gorgeous. In addition to the 12 by 12 inch paper pad, I also had an 8 by 8 inch pad that I picked up at Tuesday Morning years ago, and that's actually how I came to fall in love with this collection. I picked up some of the elements of the collection at Tuesday Morning, but I still had to buy the 12 by 12 inch papers. And that used to happen to me all the time. I would buy some parts of some collections, and then I'd have to buy the rest of the collection. So I don't know if it ended up saving me money, but I got a lot of really nice stuff over the years from Tuesday Morning. I cut the title Love Anchors the Soul from a piece of the pattern paper. I'm not sure if that title goes perfectly with this layout, but I really liked it, so I decided that I was going to use that as the title. But right now, at this point, I'm not sure where I'm going to put it. So right now I'm creating clusters. I'm creating clusters mainly with the roses that I fussy cut out from the collection. There were some really beautiful flowers. There are pink roses. There's also some very small orange flowers, and I'm not sure what kind of flowers those are, but I like those as well, and I like that those are very small. I like when clusters have different size flowers. And usually the bigger ones go closer to the photo, and the smaller ones can go on the outside of the clusters. I'm also using some of the die cuts from the collection. The tag at the top that says Sea Love, that's from the die cut pack. There's also that circular element on the bottom left that says Take Me to the Pier. I'm also using the blue seashell to the left of the photo and the ship's wheel that is in the top cluster. And I can't recall if the sailboat that I'm inking right now is from the die cut pack or if I fussy cut it out. But I thought that would look nice over to the left of the photo. I inked the edges of all of the embellishments and all the papers on the layout with some distress ink in Vintage Photo. I want to mention that at times I cut out some of the footage of this process. I just spent too much time arranging all of those flowers and the embellishments and moving them around and trying them in different places. The video would have been way too long. The part that I didn't include was when I made the cluster that's above the photo a little bit longer. So I added a few more flowers there, and I moved a couple of other things around. The seashell that I was just holding, that had a very thick border like this ship's wheel. So I wanted there to be a border on it, but I didn't want it to be quite so big. So I just trimmed the border a little bit with my scissors. And that ship's wheel moves around a lot during this process video. I add one of my favorite touches to the photo. That's some photo corners. And I use my favorite EK Success scalloped photo corner punch. And I use this pretty floral paper. And I like the way the pink stands out against the blue in the photo. I ink the edges of the photo corners just like everything else on the page. And then I use some ATG adhesive to attach all the photo corners down. And there's just something about photo corners that I love, and I just don't feel that the layout is complete until I add them. To give some of the clusters on the layout a little bit more dimension, I add some fun foam to the back of some of the flowers. Not all of them. Some of them I pop up and some of them I leave flat. I wanted to attach down the tag, but I couldn't get it to slide behind those papers that are there, so I ended up just cutting it short. And this is one of those instances where you can see that I'm arranging the flowers and rearranging them. And even though that's not something I want to include all of in the video, I do think that it's important to move things around in your layout until you're happy, till you like the shape that the cluster is and that you have everything situated in a way that you like. Sometimes the smallest change in position or angle of an embellishment can make a cluster look so much better, or even adding or taking away an embellishment. For example, along the top right now, you can see that the flowers all look rather straight on the top, and I don't find that super interesting, but I do recognize that I don't want to leave that like that, and I do make some changes along the way that helps that cluster look a little more full and not so uniform across the top. I hope that that makes sense. When I start working on the cluster to the left of the photo, I decided that I wanted to leave the longer strip of flowers that's there now. I wanted to leave that flat against the page, and then I wanted to pop up the flower that's on the bottom. The cluster that I'm working on now, it's a little tall and straight, and I'm going to add yet another embellishment on the top. You could see that seashell. I'll attach that down right now to the top of the flowers, but I wanted to build out the base a little bit, so I put the circle on the bottom that says take me to the pier, and then I add a few more flowers, and that's just so that that cluster looked a little wider and more grounded at the bottom. And I think that this is an example, the flower on the top left-hand side of the page, of how turning it around and twisting it and finding the best position for it can make a big difference. I feel like that's the best spot for it in all the positions that I tried, but you have to try them all in order to be able to tell what the best one's going to be, or at least I do. Some people might be able to eyeball that right away and be able to tell that that's the way it should be placed, but for me, I have to turn it around and explore all my options. And that's probably why I'm such a slow scrapbooker. I have to try all the different combinations and all the different possibilities. I wanted to pop up the sailboat that is next to the photo on some foam. So I covered that with some foam. I like the way that looks popped up right next to the photo. And now I'm going to be adding a few more of those tiny orange flowers. I wanted to kind of sprinkle those around the page. But before I get to the flowers, I add a small banner that says summer to the cluster that's in the top left-hand corner. And I was thinking that there's a lot of that foiled blue color on the page, and I wanted to add that to that cluster as well. Now I'm sprinkling those orange flowers, and there were some pink flowers in there as well, around the page, and I'm mainly putting them near the clusters, either in the clusters or right next to the large clusters. And now I'm using some ATG adhesive, and I'm going to attach all of those down to the background. Earlier I had mentioned how the ship's wheel keeps moving around the layout. This is where I decided that I thought it would look best next to the tag on the top of the page, and that's where I think that that cluster becomes a little more interesting, along with those other small flowers that I added before. Now the top has a bit of an irregular shape, and I think that that looks more interesting. I'm inking the edges of the title, and I'm going to attach that on the lower left-hand corner of the page, and I put a flower on the left-hand side, although I just flicked it away, but I'm going to return the flower there, and I like taking elements from the layout and bringing them over to the title, and that I think helps to bring the whole layout together. Now I'm working on the last cluster on the lower right-hand corner. I have popped up the anchor on some foam so that it could be a little bit more prominent. I never feel that a layout with floral clusters is complete until I add some leaves or stems to the clusters. I'm using this very thin branch for this layout. I cut these branches out of one of the papers that was in the 8x8-inch pad. As I was adding the branches to the layout, I decided that the flower underneath the anchor was just too much, so I removed that cluster of flowers and I added a branch there instead. And then I went around to each of the clusters on the layout and I added some of the branches. The bigger the cluster, the more branches I added. And then earlier on, I used some Distress ink, again the vintage photo, to ink the edges a little bit, just so that they would have a little bit of variation. I'm putting some twine through the tag at the top of the page, and I'm trimming it back and arranging it. And then I popped up the top of the tag a little bit just so it would have a little bit of dimension and just slightly pop off the page. I add some small pearls to the photo corners. And that completes the layout, everybody. I feel so fortunate to be able to participate in 30 Days of Sketches and Scraptember. And I hope that you'll take a look at the videos and the Instagram posts of all the other scrapbookers who are following along as well. I want to say thank you to everybody for watching my videos, for commenting, for subscribing. And I hope that everybody has a great day, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.